authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. So, could y'all hear me? I hate that. I really, really hate that. Hi, welcome back. We are up live. Tanisha Talks Teas on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Kick. We are going to sip some tea from the Karmelo Anthony killing of the other high school teen. Let's jump right on into the new developments. There is alleged new evidence from footage from the actual killing of the other teen that has surfaced. So let's take a look and review what's out there.
Anthony footage has finally been released, and it allegedly shows no physical confrontation, contradicts the self-defense claim, and somehow Karmelo is still being defended like he's the victim. Meanwhile, certain voices online are doubling down and blaming white people, masculinity, even history, instead of the person who brought a knife to a school track meet. Don't make sense to me. Let's unpack this because the moment the footage surfaced, that's when everything changed.
White people have always felt that they had jurisdiction over the black body. It goes back to the plantation days, Art. The problem with this case is the stand your ground law was meant for white people.
Okay, let's sip some tea from here. So, what we were made to believe, because we hadn't saw any real footage, other than the surrounding situation of the area of where it happened. So what we really had was what we heard, what was put out there by the press, the family, the lawyers, right? So what we were made to believe before there had ever been any more evidence released to the public or however have you, is that Karmelo Anthony was approached by a teen larger than himself and was provoked to use a weapon to defend himself, using bodily harm, and it ended up in a murder, in a killing. So that's what we had to go on. So we went however we felt, to the nature of what we knew. It wasn't just that we, didn't want it to be what it was because Karmelo was black and, you know, some of us feel like, laws don't apply to us and we won't be protected under the law of stand your ground if in fact that's what we need to do. So now that there's new evidence surfacing, let us look and listen for ourselves and make our own, clear, concise judgments. So here we go.
To be used against black people. The stand your ground law was meant for white people to be used against black people. It was never intended for black people to use the stand your ground law to defend themselves against white people. And guess what, Art? White people don't care whether or not Karmelo is justified or not. They don't care. Even if it is proven that Karmelo acted in self-defense, and it will be, they don't care. The problem with white folks is in this country, black people do not have a right to defend themselves from Caucasians. This is a 400-year-old practice. This is a 400-year-old norm. This is a 400-year-old culture. This is a 400-year-old custom, Art. So he not in court fighting against the law. The law is on Karmelo's side. The problem is, the basic problem of this case in Frisco, Texas, Art, is a black boy valued his own life enough. A black boy valued his own life enough to take the life of a Caucasian in order to defend it. And in American history, you rarely come across black men, let alone a child, who valued his life enough and had courage enough to defend himself against two racists who were trying to harm him.
This is why I could not be a debater. I'm telling y'all, if anybody call Kingdom Reacts out for a debate, hey man, I can't do it. I'm just not admittedly emotionally equipped because I'll be sitting there the whole time, just ready to speak. Because this is how this whole thing kicks off, not with facts of the case, but with a full-blown rewrite of legal history. I even just looked it up, man. He says the stand your ground law was created for white people to use against black people. So let's clear this up, some research real quick. The stand your ground law doesn't mention race. It's about perceived threat and immediate danger. Okay, period. It's been used and upheld by people of all races, including black defendants. And here's the twist. According to a 2013 Urban Institute study, black defendants are more likely to be found justified in stand your ground cases when the person they defend against is white. So when he says the law wasn't meant for us, what he really means is he doesn't like how it's being applied now. That's what he really means. Umar, he's not reacting to the case. He's dragging us through 400 years of pain and trying to wear it like it's an armor shield. This isn't.
So let's sip some tea from what the content creator is giving us, okay? So to the truth and point of what Umar is saying about the laws that were, written, and no, they don't have, a color attached to them as they are, written out in the law books. Constitutionally, they cannot, or not saying that they cannot, but it's not, the error of where we don't have any room to, say, how can you now, after we supposedly have been liberated from these moments in the movement for black rights, to, say stand your ground law will only represent or only, support and be factual, however have you, for Caucasian people. So no, they did not write it out like that. I am, looking from the lens of where Umar is coming from on this matter and saying that he's seeing it, how that's how it, however, is being used. Um, that whenever, there is an instance between black and white, more white people are using, I'm standing my ground. It was you know, it happened to be a black person or however have you. And I use physical bodily, ways to defend myself against them. So, and there's lots of stories that we could pull up to reference where Umar's coming from. I don't know where this content creator Kingdom reacts on Rumble. But however, go over and check out his commentary if you feel the need to. I did because I wanted, I always want to stop by certain platforms and get a feel of where they, are pulling their understanding from in the world, just where they are with what is going on in the world around us all. And so he happens to believe that more black people are being justified in today's times, in instances where black people are seemingly found to have been made to be defending themselves against self in a self-defense situation. Okay. um I haven't heard that statistic. I don't know where he got that from, but I can as well pull up good old AI and ask it. um in stand your ground laws, are black people more in today's times likely to get off on self-defense? Let's see. Okay, so research and data on the application of stand your ground laws indicate that black people are not more likely to get off on self-defense in today's times compared to white individuals. Kingdom reacts. Okay. um, Racial disparities exist where whites who kill black people are more likely to have their actions deemed justified. Okay, that's an AI review. Several studies and reports highlight the issue. Higher justification rates for white on black killings. Research has consistently found that in states with stand your ground laws, homicides where the shooter is white and the victim is black are significantly more likely to be ruled justified compared to cases where the shooter is black and the victim is white. Some studies suggest this discrepancy can be as high as 10 times more likely. Mr. Kingdom reacts. Stand your ground laws exasperate existing disparities. The presence of stand your ground laws seems to magnify the racial disparities in justifiable homicide outcomes that were already present in states without these laws. Okay. Black defendants face greater challenges. Kingdom reacts. Okay. It is considered more challenging for black defendants to successfully assert a self-defense claim under stand your ground laws when the victim is white, and conversely, easier for white individuals to use this defense when the victim is black. These findings suggest that stand your ground laws contribute to disproportionate harm to black communities and allow more people to get away with violent acts with impunity. Okay. It is important to note that while data reveals significant disparities, they don't necessarily prove direct racial bias solely from the law itself. However, the consistent patterns across various studies suggest that stand your ground laws may be applied in ways that perpetuate or worsen existing racial inequities within the justice system. Okay. The implications of these findings are that stand your ground laws may not promote public safety and may even harm public health and safety while also exacerbating social inequities. Okay, so wrapping that up, saying that just because you are saying I stood my ground, if it is actually really a racially motivated crime, that it promotes unsafe public awareness and community. Okay, so we're going to continue to listen. I'm actually looking for the video of what we're looking for today, but we're also getting some commentary from others as well, and reviewing what they are seeing and feeling about this new alleged evidence that's supposedly come out about Carmelo Anthony. I know a content creator that has it named the Angry Man, and I like to do reviews on his content because he's funny, but he's also very informative, and he can get a little raging. He's called the Angry Man on YouTube. So anyway, let's continue with Kingdom Reacts.
And slavery. This isn't the plantation. This isn't the tragedies.
And I like how a lot of Black people have taken some of the freedom rights that Black people in America have received since we were enslaved and captured and brought over here as indigenous people from Africa. However, we really do, need to calm down on some of us that are not just quite all the way there yet with the, oh, thank you, Massa. We're so happy, Massa, that you freed us. And, now we can buy Jordans and fucking Chevys and pimp hoes and all of the stupid shit that we be doing out here that really ain't amount to a hill of beans. And then when we really do try to climb the economic wall of, I'm having a brain fire. Anyway, of the white picket fence. Y'all know what I'm trying to say, like the American dream. And we get killed, we get maimed down, we get brutalized, scrutinized. We just simply never make it. And things like that we are, just, oh, we're still blaming slavery. We're still doing this and doing that. Okay, some of us are not there with some of the ways that y'all feel about how we are seemingly rightfully free in this country. So, I mean, if we are giving y'all respect and however y'all want to, feel so liberated by what you feel we have in 2025 from 1825, okay, or 1925, then okay, give us that same understanding that we don't feel like it's been that long and not much has really changed, and how we can also really have equality in this fucking country.
Of our past. This is a teenager who brought a knife to a school event and used it. That's it. I've been fumbling my words all day, dealing with this nonsense. Now, the moment you ignore that, I've been speaking extensively here. I usually transition a lot quicker. My fault,
now,
y'all.
I also, when I have a similar point of view on what I'm sipping from this tea, from whatever content creator or vlog I'm getting my tea from, okay, if I feel the same sentiments, then I acknowledge that. I feel the same way, Kingdom Reacts, about Carmelo Anthony taking the knife to school. That was not something that he would use to maybe, I don't know, fix a bicycle or carve out something in wood shop. I believe Carmelo Anthony may have had a knife that may have been in a kitchen or a butcher shop of some sort. I don't think he had like a regular pocket knife. I think he stabbed the other child, the Metcalf child, with a 5-inch blade. However, I also don't think that if Carmelo Anthony was not in, the danger of another weapon being exposed to him in a physical threat, that if he felt scared, whatever happened to running, like we used to run. If there was a bigger bully or something in the neighborhood, they were like, I'm going to whoop your ass. We would run. I would run. So, you'd have to catch me to whoop me type shit. I'm not just going to, sit there get my neck snapped, but I would run. He could have ran. That would have been an alternative to a child being murdered and now him potentially facing the rest of his life in prison. Okay, if the Metcalf child did not have a weapon, then why did Karmelo Anthony brandish one? Okay, let's keep listening.
Tell I'm a little passionate, but the moment you ignore that, you're not defending black people, you're defending the law. Because justice doesn't start with emotion, it starts with evidence. And just when you think it couldn't get more biased, watch how far the blame game goes next.
White people, I'm sorry to say, this is y'all fault that this whole Karmelo Anthony incident even happened in the first place. First of all, y'all need to give Karmelo Anthony an apology. Anybody that feel like he was wrong, y'all need to give that young man an apology, because all he was doing was defending himself, and now he had to go through the trauma of taking somebody's life to defend himself. Now he got to deal with all this backlash that he doesn't even deserve. Now, first of all, I know it's really hard to grasp this, right? But all black men, we don't all wear bonnets. We don't all wear dresses. We don't all wear purses. We don't all wear mercy. We don't all sell out our people just so we can make quick money. We're not all feminine. All black men are not docile, passive, that y'all like to put in the media and pacify these black men by giving them money in exchange for their masculinity. All black men are not willing to sell out their masculinity in order to get bread, in order to push agendas. All black men are not like that, okay? Y'all been teaching your young Euro children that y'all can just basically walk up to black people, and Euros can do whatever they want to black people without there being any consequence. And I'm pretty sure these children thought in their mind, well, we're bigger, we're white, we can do whatever we want to him, and there's not going to be consequences. And look what happened in the process. This young man had to lose his life and be made an example out of in order to put your ego in check. That's basically what happened. These young men had huge egos. They were known bullies, and they went up and tried to bully the wrong black child because they probably assumed that just because they had the upper hand, they were able to just treat and talk to this young black man like anything. And look what happened. So you know what happened here? Arrogance. Arrogance is what made this happen. Arrogance is why that young man, he was simply protecting himself. As simple as that.
This right here, man, is emotional manipulation wrapped in cultural pain. And I get it. People are tired of injustices. I mean, hell, we all are. But this isn't that. He says Karmelo was just defending himself. With what? A knife at a track meet, bro. On school grounds, not to mention. No mention of whether he was jumped, chased, or even touched. Just vibes and assumption. Then it spirals. Now it's about bonnets, masculinity, the media. What does any of that have to do with stabbing a kid? Please explain that to me. Let me ask, if the roles were reversed and a white kid brought a knife and stabbed a black student, would the same person still be preaching self-defense? You think he'll still be preaching that? Would the internet call for understanding? Would anyone be demanding an apology for the attacker? Yeah, we both know the answer to that. But when the footage comes out, that's where the house of cards collapses. AF posted.
All right, so we have some verbiage. The footage of Austin Metcalf's killing, which has not been released to the public, shows no physical confrontation between Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony before Anthony fatally stabbed him. Austin, I'm sorry, I was calling him Anthony. Did I put Anthony? I will change that. I am so sorry. In my title, I put Anthony Metcalf. Sorry, it's Austin. Okay, anywho. So Rest in peace to Austin. According to the Texas bureau chief for the Daily Mail. If true, this contradicts Anthony's account that he was acting in self-defense and indicates that Anthony attacked Metcalf without physical provocation. Uh-oh.
The footage of Austin Metcalf's killing, which has not been released to the public, shows no physical confrontation between Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony before Anthony fatally stabbed him, according to the Texas chief for the Daily Mail. If true, this contradicts Anthony's account that he was acting in self-defense and indicates that Anthony attacked Metcalf without physical provocation. Let's read a little more extensively, y'all. Y'all, I don't know. Let me see. Can y'all see that? Oh, okay, y'all can see it. Anthony has admitted to the stabbing, but maintains he acted in self-defense, claiming the truth will come out. Initially, Frisco police said an altercation between the teens led to the violent encounter. However, the footage reviewed by the Daily Mail at the Frisco Independent School District's headquarters shows no obvious physical confrontation between the two prior to the stabbing. The Daily Mail did not detect anything that indicated chaos was about to ensue. Oh. Let me finish before I get my thoughts. Strict guidelines were.
And I'm also going to stop this commentator. Before all of the black, because a lot of us, unfortunately, we love to see another one of us go down. Okay, may not have been, what was alleged to have made us believe what it may have been in the beginning. Say it wasn't a physical altercation. Say he wasn't ultimately provoked. Say he did just pull out a knife when, he turned, because I seen a little bit of the footage. He ran around the corner or wherever he ran to, wherever Austin was. It looks like he ran up to where Austin was after Austin Metcalf said a few choice words to Karmelo. Austin left and Karmelo felt away and he went and looked for Austin is what it looks like on video. Okay. We're going to watch the video because I know the Angry Man has it on his show. Anywho, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, it's still two young lives that will be ruined. Austin is dead, rest in peace, and Karmelo essentially will be dead inside a prison cell. His only life will exist inside a prison cell for however long they give Karmelo Anthony. Okay, so before y'all jump to, oh my God, yeah, the nigga going down like crabs in a barrel, those are two young lives that are fucking ultimately ruined from this moment that should have and could have been prevented.
Enforced for viewing the footage. Reporters were only permitted to take handwritten notes and were barred from capturing or republishing stills or clips. The district allowed the limited release because the students' identities are not easily discernible in the video. Captured by a high-angle camera positioned near the press box and typically used for football broadcasts, the footage shows the tent at the top left of the screen. Students are seen sitting idly beneath it, waiting for the competition to start. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, it becomes apparent that the moment has happened when an armed Anthony attacked Metcalf. The stabbing itself is not visible on camera, but the reaction is immediate. Students are fleeing from under the tent, while police later confirmed Anthony fled the scene. He cannot be clearly identified in the footage. Boom. I mean, that's it. The Daily Mail citing Texas authorities saying there was no confrontation. Let's put this bluntly. Y'all, I don't know what's going on. Something with the water I was drinking today in terms of my words today. I'm going to put this bluntly. If there's no physical threat, there's no self-defense case. I'll say it again. If there's no physical threat, there's no self-defense case. And the people who
we're going to sip some tea on that. He says if there's no self-defense, wait a minute, because I'm having a brain fart morning.
I'm going to put this bluntly. If there's no physical threat, there's no self.
Okay, if there's no physical threat, there's no self-defense case. Okay, so let's go ahead and analyze that, right? If there's no physical threat to a person, can a person use that as a self-defense claim? Okay. No, generally a person cannot claim self-defense if there's no physical threat. Self-defense laws require an immediate and unavoidable threat of harm. Using force in response to something other than an imminent physical threat is not considered self-defense and could lead to criminal charges. Okay. Seemingly why now it came out that Karmelo Anthony was charged with first-degree murder. Okay. Self-defense is justified when a person reasonably believes they are in immediate danger of unlawful physical harm. This means the threat must be happening now, not a future possibility. So if Austin Metcalf said whatever he said to Karmelo, maybe even pushed him or something, whatever, however have you, and left, and then Karmelo, I see this so much with the stupid shit black people are doing to each other, people, period. And then you go and you chase, they no longer become the threat. Now you do. Okay. So you better keep chasing my ass. Anyway, the force used, reasonableness. The force used in self-defense must be reasonable and proportionate to the threat faced. Using excessive force against a minor threat could negate a self-defense claim. Some states have stand your ground laws, verbal threats alone without any accompanying imminent. Okay, this is what I was saying earlier, right? Without any accompanying imminent physical threat generally do not justify the use of force in self-defense. Okay, so that's what I was saying since I first heard this fucking story. I'm like, okay, the boy may have been bigger, may have been appeared to be stronger than Karmelo, but if the boy was not brandishing a weapon as well, I don't think that Karmelo Anthony was really justified in pulling a knife on this kid. Okay. If the threat is already passed, any use of force against the aggressor would be considered retaliation, not self-defense. For example, if someone verbally insults you, you cannot punch them and claim self-defense. If someone threatens to harm you in the future, you cannot attack them preemptively and claim self-defense. In these situations, you might have other legal recourse like reporting the threat or seeking protection, but not self-defense. Okay, back to Kingdom Reacts.
Self-defense case. I'll say it again. If there's no physical threat, there's no self-defense case. And the people who've seen the footage, including the legal team, they know this. That's why the story changed from he's defending himself to, well, we can't see the video anyway. But the moment you can't spare the narrative, you hide the process. And this brings us to the cleanup crew, the folks trying to hold the line, even when it's falling apart.
So some of my old videos about the Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation have been getting a lot of attention again. And I decided to go see why. And when I went to take a look at it, it's a bunch of people saying video footage of what happened that day has been released. Do you still believe it's self-defense now? Why, yes. Yes, I do. Because here's the truth about the videotape that was released. There was a video that was released, but it was not released to the public, so we're not able to see it. It was released to a few media outlets, and Karmelo Anthony's legal team confirmed that they did watch the video. The reason that the video was not able to be released to the public is because there are children on the video, and there are laws that protect children and their identities that does not allow the school district to show the video to the general public. But if you
Look like he
actually
read.
took the time to read the articles and not just look at the headlines, you would see that in the articles it says that Austin and Anthony are both not identifiable in the video that was shown to the media. Now, it is likely that the video will be used as evidence for the grand jury to determine whether or not they believe Karmelo Anthony is guilty of first-degree unaliving. But what it sounds like is that they're going to use the video as evidence to put pieces to the puzzle together, because there were people seen running from the incident and the EMTs responding. But the reality of it is, y'all don't care about the truth. Y'all just want to see that black boy go to jail. That's what it comes down to. And I'm going to keep saying this, but the moral of the story and the lesson that needs to be learned here is that y'all need to teach y'all kids to keep their hands to themselves and not try to bully people.
Respectfully, that's called grasping for straws. Now, I know I mentioned that he was reading, or looked like he's reading, and I guess I spoke a little too soon. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not opposed to that, even not myself, since y'all want to know a huge secret to why these videos have been getting progressively better. It's because I've been watching these videos, taking down notes, and making sure I get my certain talking points together. That way I don't just be sitting here rambling like I'm doing right now. But again, that's grasping for straws. Yes, the public hasn't seen the video, but the media outlets have. Lawyers have, and they're all confirming the same thing, which is no visible confrontation. And if the footage did prove self-defense, you'd think the defense team wouldn't be screaming from the top of the rooftop. You think that wouldn't be happening right now, my boy? Instead, they're whispering legal technicalities. That's what's going on. Because once the public finds out the truth, the support is droning. It's going to dry all the way up. But one person said it raw and didn't sugarcoat it. Y'all may know him as Charleston White. Hey, we may not always agree, but when he's right.
You cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
What if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense, because if you are afraid the day before, where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher that's bringing these kids in here and resolve this issue is called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values. You tell the teacher. Somebody fucking with you, you tell the teacher. Let the teacher know, so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So word to documentation to say this is self-defense. It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear. Anticipating to use it.
That was premeditated, though.
And it's at a track meet. You getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go.
That's the part nobody want to say out loud, because it's the truth.
You cannot bring...
If you were really afraid for your life, you wouldn't show up with a weapon. The proper protocol is to tell a teacher, a parent, a coach, an adult. You'd avoid the confrontation altogether. But if you walk into an event with a weapon already on you, that's intent. That's intent, my boy. That's not panic. That's planning.
All right. So that's his take on it. Okay. We are now going to move over to some more news on the matter. Okay. Let's get into it. Frisco ISD releases video of fatal track meet stabbing involving Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. Frisco Independent School District has released surveillance footage of a deadly stabbing that occurred during a track meet in April, but only under strict conditions, under Texas open record laws. Requesters may view such video in some cases, but are not permitted to record it, okay? The video begins several minutes before The altercation between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. The camera position near the press box captures half of the field at Kendall Stadium. The tent where the incident occurred is located in the bleachers near the 50-yard line. Due to the camera's distance, individuals are not easily identified. At approximately 9:55 a.m., a sudden movement is seen under the tent, followed by interaction between two figures. Frisco ISD officials say this is the moment the stabbing occurred. Several people are seen walking away while others approach the areas. Okay. Minutes later, an ambulance arrives, entering through the gate near the end zone and driving the 50-yard line. Paramedics appear to realize they cannot reach Metcalf, who is in the bleachers with the stretcher. They return it to the end zone, then carry it into the stands. While paramedics work on Metcalf, someone places crime scene tape and unrolls a blue tarp higher in the stands behind the tent. Police later said this is where the knife used in the stabbing was found. Okay, so Karmelo Anthony, he hid the murder weapon. Stretcher moved to ambulance. At about 10:13 a.m., paramedics begin moving the stretcher toward the entrance as the ambulance reverses alongside it. Six or seven individuals surround the stretcher as it is loaded into the ambulance at 10:15 a.m. The vehicle does not depart until 10:20, so 5 minutes later. The police remain on scene. The video continues for several more minutes, showing police activity under the tent. Prosecutors may present the footage to the grand jury. Okay. So let's get into the video because I seen the video somewhere, y'all, but it clicked off my thing, so now I gotta find it again. Okay, put a video there, but there's no video there. There's no video there. There's no video there. Okay. Hold on, we're gonna find the video. Okay. Total Pro Sports says they got 40-minute surveillance video released from Karmelo Anthony stabbing that left Austin Metcalf dead, and it paints a grim picture of the fatal altercation. Where is the video? Okay, let's get into this a little bit. Thousand ads are popping up. Nobody had a clue that at David Kendall Stadium in Frisco, Texas would turn so tragic. So Marianne Martinez of Daily Mail was granted access to the surveillance footage of the deadly incident between the 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony and 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. The original report states that Metcalf, a student student at Memorial High School after confronting Anthony, who attended Centennial High School, about sitting under the tent of a team he was associated with. So a team he was not there to be there for. Okay. The footage of Austin Metcalf killing, which has not been released to the public, shows no physical connection between Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony before Anthony fatally stabbed him, according to the Texas bureau chief for the Daily Mail. However, the footage reviewed by the Daily Mail at Frisco Independent School District's headquarters shows, no obvious confrontation. The Daily Mail did not detect anything to indicate a chaos was about to ensue. Captured by a high-angle camera positioned near the press box. Okay. Students are seen sitting idly beneath it, waiting for the competition to start. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, it became apparent that the moment had happened when an armed Anthony attacked Metcalf. The publication stated that Karmelo Anthony stabbing Metcalf was not on the camera, but students were spotted fleeing the area of the attack. So one, would speculate that they're going to have the students testify in this case as well to what they saw. Okay. Yeah. So they were seen carrying Metcalf down the bleachers to a walkway at the bottom of the seating area. Adults are seen rushing to help him. It started to rain more. Metcalf is visibly cradled in the arms of his twin brother, Hunter, bleeding heavily as they await emergency medical services. Daily Mail stated that the surveillance reviewed appeared to challenge the self-defense claim, offering little evidence that Anthony was in immediate danger before the attack. This is Karmelo Anthony. So. What will happen with the remainder of his life will be a Texas court. The organization, Next Generation Action, graduation requirements mean he could graduate some very choice words to say about the matter between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf on the fateful day that Karmelo Anthony killed Austin Metcalf. Okay. So let's get into that. Or actually, let me see. Hold on. Okay, I keep pulling up stuff from when it first happened. Hold on. New evidence.
At the track meet that led to the death of a student back in April, but only under very strict conditions. So through open records, they will allow whoever requests it to view that video, but no recording whatsoever is allowed. On that note, we sent our IT producer, Kelsey Mittauer, to watch that video. She joins us now in studio to walk us through what you saw. We're going to go in order here in just a second, Kelsey, but in general terms, what did the video depict? What did you see?
It shows everything from the moments leading up to the stabbing to the medical response to then the beginning of the police investigation.
Okay, and it lasts.
Yeah, got a new show for y'all. Got a damn good show. But before we get to today's video, don't forget, got a new giveaway. Cummins Turbo Diesel Ram at 10 grand in cash. Get in to win? Just go to my website, officialhorsetwins.com. Anything you buy gets you in to win.
It's several minutes is what they showed.
It did, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's start in the beginning now and talk a little bit about what you saw at the front end of that video, because you got to see the attack, the actual stabbing
right.
took place.
So it starts, I started watching about 9:53. The camera shows half of the field. So it's about from the 50-yard line on, and the tent where it happened was kind of right in front of the 50-yard line, but the camera is down here.
Okay.
It's positioned across the field. So everybody in the video, you can tell there are kids or adults, but no one's identifiable.
So a long shot is what
a long shot, yeah.
So a couple minutes in, and you actually see the altercation take place.
Yes, everything leading up to it, everyone's milling about. It seems very normal, and then right at 9:55, that's when like there's this explosive movement or action between two people under the tent, and that's when the employees in the room told me that's when the stabbing happened at 9:55.
Right, and you were talking about people kind of start to scatter at that moment. Obviously, something went wrong. And so what happens next? Because now, a little bit later on, that's when the ambulance shows up.
A lot of people ask me, why do I like auto wash? The biggest reason
Okay, while they're paying bills, y'all, thank you for sipping tea with Tanisha Talks Teas. Today, we are looking at new evidence about the Karmelo-Austin Metcalf murders. The two teens, one killed the other at a high school track meet back in April. He's currently released on bond and at home.
So it seems to me that she said it was just two individuals involved. Right. No, on TikTok and social media, they were saying those two brothers teamed up on him. Yeah, like they tried to jump him. Yeah. It doesn't sound like there was like a scuffle or anything, or they were fighting. Just looked like the altercation ensued because the kid got stabbed. Right. Right. If that's the case, I mean, you have absolutely no self-defense claim. None whatsoever. If you just stabbed a kid, now if you're getting your butt whooped by two twins just twice your size, I get it, but you get it? You think it's self-defense? Yeah, in normal circumstances, but you at a track meet with kids, weapons are not allowed on school property. I was like, you're not gonna have fear for your life at a track meet in broad daylight. I'm like, in normal circumstances, if you got two guys jumping you, they twice your size, yeah, you can defend yourself. But we're talking kids at a track meet. I don't think he has any claim to self-defense. Yeah. Well, from what I recall, he was like, touch me and see. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's not even being disputed. Right. Right. I mean, everybody knows that kid is guilty of sin. Hey, is it true that they said he's got a 3.4 GPA, the black kid, Karmelo Anthony? I don't know. I heard some people say he's got a 4.0. Heard somebody else say, nah, it's a lie, he's got a 1.1. I mean, it really doesn't matter. He's going to jail for the next 20 years at least. Yeah. But it looked like they would have released that footage for everyone to see. Yeah. I think if it's that grainy, why are you even going to speculate and say it was released? That footage can be enhanced. I bet you that footage is going to sell that kid's fate. Yeah, the only way he can justify self-defense is if he's walking away and then they come up to him and corner him and not allow him to leave. Right. And then they're beating the hell out of him, and then he pulls a knife. But the kid doesn't even have a scratch on him. Right. I mean, forensics doesn't lie. Right. Kids do, but forensics don't. That kid is the liar. They didn't even recover the weapon, I don't think. No. And Karmelo took off running afterwards. Yeah. Why are you running? You was defending yourself, right? Only people that run are thugs, criminals. You felt guilty. I just stabbed someone. Yeah. Let me try to get away. You know? Yeah. I mean, they gave you an out. They told you to leave.
Yeah.
All you had to do is leave. It was that team stint. Leave. Yeah. So he doesn't want to leave. Altercation ensues. He stabs him, and then he leaves. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. All you had to do was leave.
So a couple of minutes in, and you actually see the altercation take place.
Yes, everything leading up to it, everyone's milling about. It seems very normal, and then right at 9:55, that's when like there's this explosive movement or action between two people under the tent, and that's when the employees in the room told me that's when the stabbing happened at 9:55.
Right, and you were talking about people kind of start to scatter at that moment. Obviously, something went wrong. So what happens next? Because now, a little bit later on, that's when the ambulance shows up.
Right. So when the ambulance arrives, it actually comes through near the end zone at the gate, and then it comes up to the 50-yard line directly in front of the tent. You can see Austin Metcalf is right here. But then when they pull up close to the tent, they realize that they can't get the stretcher to him because of the barrier of the bleachers. So at that point, then the paramedics have to get out, and then they have to walk all the way back to the end zone. This is actually, in the next slide. They have to go all the way back to the end zone and then come all the way back. That takes another couple of minutes. So at this point, they've arrived, and they are actively working on Metcalf at that point.
And we want to reiterate, we're using some imagery here to sort of denote exactly what was happening here, these little icons that were using the ambulance, because, again, the video was not able to be released. You're watching all of this happen, Kelsey, and you're watching the time sort of elapse. What are you thinking about when you see this, especially when you see sort of the issues in getting Metcalf out of there?
I mean, I understand why it happened the way it happened. They were still working on him, actually. The thing that really struck me is they're working on him, and that's when you see the rain's coming down heavier, and then they actually pull out the blue tarp.
The blue tarp that we saw.
Right, and then I noticed the crime scene tape is already up. I was so focused on here, I didn't even see that, but they're building the crime scene actively around him as they're continuing to work on him in the bleachers.
So that was happening while he was still there?
Yes, he's in the bleachers.
And in closing here, because we know that several minutes had elapsed, and people are sort of scurrying in different areas, what do we know about the suspect in the stabbing, Karmelo Anthony, and his whereabouts?
So I asked the women in the room, the employees, I said, of everybody on this screen, is Karmelo Anthony in here? And they said, we couldn't tell you, we don't know. And honestly, it was so hard. Once it happened, there's people going this way, that way, this way, and this way. So it was just hard to know what direction he headed.
All right, Kelsey, thank you very much for describing that for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, but from what I understood what happened, it was raining outside. We all know that. I think he asked somebody said, yeah, you can sit under the tent under these bleachers. And then he went and sat down, and then those kids took. I don't know if that dude had the authority to tell him to do that. I don't know if that story's been made up. That's just what I heard. But regardless of what led up to this event, you don't stab somebody at a track meet. Just because they asked you to leave. Yeah, that's not self-defense. That's thuggery. Yeah, and she sounds like she says like it was over quick. Yeah. So it wasn't a big melee where everybody's fighting and somebody's getting pummeled and then they... Right. Everybody knows that kid is guilty. The only people don't realize that boy is guilty of sin is the sub-Saharans. But they can't help it. They got low capacity. And they're racist. Yeah, exactly.
Those are the conservative twins. Y'all go over there and check them out. I have another source that I want to use. He's called The Angry Man, y'all, and he's a mess, but I like his commentary. I want to pull him up for the Karmelo Anthony piece we're doing today. Thank you for sipping tea with Tanisha Talks Teas, okay? And we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. Let's keep it sipping. Okay. Where did the angry man go? Okay, let me look him up without attaching the angry man or Karmelo Anthony. Here he is. Go over here, check out the angry man. He's almost at 1 million. So run him up, tea sippers. And while you at it, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel too. Okay. Let's see. Girl, he did a 6-hour live on Karmelo, but we ain't gonna deep dive that long today, girl. I got things to do.
Long way.
$50 boss up. Stack up and match up.
Yo, shout out to my man Dark Power setting it off in the Cash Apps.
To all my haters.
Trump environment. Look at what's going on when Trump is president. This is the type of stuff that's just gonna keep happening and There would be so many old white Democrats on freaking podcasts and news media outlets with their jowls. This is deplorable. All that old bullshit. But because you Negroes lack
people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. Let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. And I've got my phone here to keep track of time, so if it goes off, I'm not trying to be, not trying to be a ball, I'm just trying to keep track of the time. So today we're talking about, but what people consistently underestimate today, us a great deal, both in terms of money.
Fuckers gaslight us, make up a fucking story just to try to fucking make it look like this fucking kid is some kind of hero defending himself against the evil racists. We're tired of every time the left comes out with some kind of
like I said, y'all, the
Really
angry
that
man
simple.
delved
What a
into
scene
the
on
Karmelo. He always
Austin
said
Metcalf
he's
never
pretty
put a hand on
controversial.
Carmelo Anthony. So much for the self-defense fucking theory. We were sitting here for fucking months now. Listen, everybody's screaming that Carmelo Anthony was just defending himself against Austin Metcalf, and to find out it was all a fucking bullshit lie, made up to try to make a criminal.
It is, how do we necessarily so much know that it wasn't a self-defense if we haven't yet heard the test? Okay, what we got are some media outlets being able to view some very grainy, 1,000-foot away type surveillance of what may have happened under a tent that nobody could see. All they know is that Karmelo and Austin were both under the tent, and they know something happened from the video because people started to run, which is normally what happens when a occurrence happens, right? How do we know that from what the media, just because the media came out of watching, from what I'm seeing, not really much of any fucking thing, except there was a tussle of some sort. There was some type of occurrence where people were engaging in some type of physical confrontation, right? And then it must have been to the level of, we know because a boy is dead, but I'm saying from what they are saying they saw on the video from 1,000 feet across the fucking football field or the track field, okay? That it must have been to the relevance for other people to seek refuge because everybody started to do that. And then they knew that something terrible had happened when they saw a boy. No, excuse me. They saw an ambulance arrive. People like teachers, people of like, adults, right? Started to go to the scene, right? And then they saw an ambulance. And then they saw a boy or something of the sort, somebody being put in an ambulance and the ambulance driving away. How do we know from what media came out of the motherfucking video room watching the video is saying that Karmelo Anthony wasn't using self-defense, aside from the fact that he used a knife? Okay. How do we know, aside from him using a knife, that he wasn't defending himself from what the news media is coming out of the watching of whatever little bit of surveillance they have? And I want to go and say, I want to spill this tea and say, I bet there's more video of what happened. Because that's all kids do. Kids record nothing. They record their cameras in the air and there's nothing going on. Okay? So, I mean, I want to say that I can almost bet, surely enough for sure, that there's definitely probably some more video footage somewhere. The kids, somebody has surveillance camera of this moment. But I'm saying from what we're gathering that they brought out of the room from watching the video, the news medias, y'all know that should be having a slant. Okay, that. And it is what it is to be said to have been said. How do we know? We don't really know. We don't really know.
Look like you some
news at face value. Like, when the fuck have we ever been able to do that shit? Okay.
You motherfuckers tried to start a civil rights movement off of this fucking kid's fucking crime. Taking the life of another fucking child, and then because of the color of his skin, all you motherfuckers jumped up and started defending his ass. We're not saying, oh, it was a black defendant. No, it's the left. It is the fucking left, because anybody that was on the fucking normal side of fucking thinking definitely did not think there was no way in hell that was self-defense, but instead we sat here and listened to you motherfuckers gaslight us.
I know that if he felt, like his life was in danger, I feel like he should, if the other kid did not have a weapon, I feel like he should have ran. However, Karmelo Anthony, the situation may not be lawfully deemed as self-defense because he used a knife, but to the child, it may have been. How do we know? I'm saying, 17-year-old child, right, that he didn't feel that he was self-defending himself by using he killed a child. Who's to know exactly what level of fear he had in his body, just unconsciously, however you say that, unconsciously, a knife and stab. I mean, whether or not lawfully it shouldn't be deemed as self-defense because he shouldn't have brought a knife to a track meet fight. Unfortunately, he did. And unconsciously, it seems like he used it out of the level of fear that he felt in the moment of whatever confrontation he may have seemingly had with Austin Metcalf.
Make up a fucking story just to try to fucking make it look like this fucking kid is some kind of hero defending himself against the evil racists. We're tired of every time the left comes out with some kind of damaging news we feel they make.
redacted version of the between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. And according to the mail insinuating that Karmelo Anthony's self-defense claim isn't real. According to it's apparent that the moment Metcalf. The incident itself was not visible on camera though, because I told you it's a redacted, footage.
Exactly. How can we as a public just take the word of the media? Since when? They always twist the actual understanding of what fucking happened on news medias to fit their agendas. They always do that. So it's like, okay, well, y'all didn't actually fucking see who attacked who, how, if Austin Metcalf did or didn't provoke Anthony or incite Anthony or threaten Anthony or anything. How the fuck do you know? How do you come out of 1,000 video range viewing and be like, yeah, no, new evidence is saying, what fucking new evidence? What is the evidence that you actually fucking saw? Because I was really ready to get on here and talk some real tea. Like, okay, Karmelo, now you already went to a knife, a school fight with a knife. Now you did it like unprovokedly or however. You just chased this boy down and murdered him. How did this shit happen? I was ready to see some real tea. This ain't shit. And the fact that we're jumping on this as a, public and saying, yeah, new evidence, like, no. I'm going to go and change. What's my title read? Hold on. Okay, new evidence alleges it wasn't self. I'm speak my title when I go and do my thumbnails and stuff. But in any fucking way, this is crazy. This is crazy. How can we now, deem that this kid is just automatically, off on certain areas of self-defense? I don't believe he should have had a knife, period. That alone aggravated situations, intentional situations for whatever. But if they're also provokedly because of a intentional, self-defense, have that also in the argument for this child. But if not, I was ready to be like, okay, But however have you. Let's continue. I'm going to take a rest break.
Shot of the scene of the incident. They do see students running from the location though. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Please like the video if you did enjoy this little update. I'll keep you guys updated and just click this comment here. That way you can watch the footage of the incident.
Gotta ask you about this Karmelo Anthony situation. How you feel about that, man? Terrible situation.
It is going crazy right now. First of all, I feel like the real Karmelo Anthony got to be like, why this name got to be Karmelo Anthony? Even though it's spelled different. I know he's like, why this kid got to have the same name as me? God damn, you making me look bad. So here's what I know. Karmelo Anthony, they were at a track meet. He went and sat in the other team's tent or some shit like that.
Because it was raining.
So it was raining, and he sat underneath their tent. Why didn't he go in his own tent?
I don't think he had one.
Did he go into that tent to be an asshole? Like, is what I'm saying. Like, did he go in there in the tent with a knife and be like, I wish these niggas would tell me to get the fuck up out of here? I don't give a yeah, I'm in here. What? Like, I'm just saying, is that what happened? Was that his attitude? And we know that it's a possibility. Anybody that's had an aggressive nature has done shit like that before. Walked in somewhere on some I wish a motherfucker. So was he on a I wish a motherfucker would type of energy? And then when they came to get him out of there, that's when he got to stabbing. I don't know. Why did he bring? Texas is an open carry state, but you're not supposed to bring weapons on school grounds. So that's where that open carry falls short. And also
now I feel like black people that host these shows, I feel like they ask other black people these questions to try to get confirmation bias. Like, I feel like they only asking this question because they expect Lord Jamar to be like, well, I think he innocent. You know what I'm saying? And if you notice, whenever one of these interviewers ask a black person a question like this, and they answer it in a way that doesn't adhere to the unspoken Negro contract, they get quiet. They get quiet as hell, bro. They don't even try to give any pushback. They just be mad quiet, just sitting there listening. And I feel like niggas get quiet like that because that's them making up their mind that they don't rock with that nigga no more.
if people push you and then you stab them, I just don't feel like it's the same type of force that you were met with, that you responded with.
I don't either. And that's why I go into every situation like a dog. I don't see color unless I have to. Like if all of the variables are like, okay, you got to see this in black and white, black, white, red. You know what I'm saying? But if there's no underlying reasons behind it of why I should look at this, you know, other than, you know, color blinded, then you know what I'm saying? I don't. So, you know, there's got to come a point that if we're not racially being motivated to move in a racial way, we cannot continue to always want to use race as the baiter for why we took the bait and ran with a racial narrative. Like, oh, it gotta be because I'm black. Why would he ask me to move? Is it because I'm black? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, is racial discrimination still a very big thing in this country? Fuck yeah. Is it always the moves of why somebody is, you know, doing anything to a person of color or minority or different race? No. Some people are just fucked the fuck up and they do shit regardless of what color you are, race you are, gender you are, whatever. Okay, so yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I feel like you need to respond with like some sort of equal type of force. Like, you know, if they swung a knife at you and then you stabbed,
Exactly.
I understand.
Yeah.
But now let's just be clear. When somebody approaches you, they don't have to touch you. Just the act of approaching you is an assault. Just so you know. The battery is when they actually touch you. So assault and battery. So if I just come at you like that, technically under the law, that's an assault. So when these people approached him in the tent,
and who is to, you know, understand his level of fear? As Karmelo Anthony, who are we to say, you know, well, he couldn't have been that scared. The other kid didn't have a knife. Okay. You don't know how scared a person is inside of their body because you're not inside their body to know, you know, what level of fear that person is really on. So we can't judge Karmelo Anthony's level of aggression that he had in the moment of a fearful moment that he could only feel. We're not in Karmelo Anthony's body.
He can technically say that he was being assaulted. Now, when they pushed him, was that the battery? I'm just saying, technically, probably yes.
Gotta ask you about this Karmelo Anthony situation.
Problem is he never got pushed. Never got pushed. That's the problem. And that's what makes the whole, even if you had a possibility of self-defense, you definitely don't have a possibility of self-defense if nobody even touched you. Because if the only thing that happened was they said, "What are you doing in this tent?" And then he just, "I'm tired of this shit." You know, it just, you know what I'm saying? That's not gonna be self-defense, man. It's not.
Well, black and white sports fans, we're gonna be talking about Karmelo Anthony in this video. Not the NBA player, but the track meet killer of Austin Metcalf. Now we know that Frisco ISD, they actually do have a tape of exactly what happened on that fateful day where Karmelo Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed football player and track star Austin Metcalf in the heart. Austin Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms. But up until this point, guys, the public has not seen the video footage. Now, I'm pretty sure that the police actually have viewed the footage. And that's probably a big reason why Karmelo Anthony got charged with capital murder. Now, of course, he's trying to plead not guilty.
Capital murder. I thought he was charged with first. Same thing, though. First degree murder is about the same. I think it's the exact same thing as capital murder.
Defense. Now, based on everything we heard, guys, there doesn't seem to be a self-defense claim. I mean, the witnesses' statements that we've actually gotten is Karmelo Anthony was instigating and eventually pulled out a black knife out of his bag and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart. Now, the big question is, why in the world did Karmelo Anthony bring a knife to a track meet he was participating in? Also, why was he sitting under the other team's tent? Because it was actually raining. Why was he doing that? I got major questions about this, guys. But anyway, certain media outlets, folks, have viewed the video footage. And folks, it's not good for Karmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
It's not. Now, some people believe there was like an altercation before the stabbing, like a scuffle or something like that. Not the case. Yeah. This is going to make it even worse for Karmelo Anthony, guys.
Well, this people speculate. How do we know if we were not there? And of course, it was mostly children there, and they're not liable to speak because they're underage. And the people that were there have to conceal what happened, essentially, you know, whatever happened, to, you know, not muddy the case of like the jurors who are going to try this case, right? We can't speculate that there wasn't an altercation if we don't know. We don't know whether or not Karmelo Anthony was being bullied by Austin Metcalf seemingly prior or however have you. We just don't know. We just don't know. I'm, you know, believing that when the trial really starts and things start to progress, we'll know more. But right now, we don't know shit. We were not there. And anybody that was there has been encouraged not to speak on it so that people are not influenced and have to sit down and try this case.
So let's go ahead and get in it. Well,
so the tapes from the Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf stabbing has been made available for law enforcement. And I've noticed that a lot of this has been kept quiet. Usually in situations like this, media is running to show the video footage, but it's been eerily quiet in that arena lately. And that's probably because the evidence on that videotape confirms what we all knew all along, and that this was not a case of self-defense or life or death. And I know this situation has been rough for both families, mainly the Metcalf family, who has gotten no fanfare after the unaliving of their son, but constant social media ridicule as a segment of the black community is siding with the murderer, Karmelo Anthony. So yes, I think it'll be a very long time before the public actually sees the video and what actually transpired. And most of the information we got is from eyewitness accounts who were there at the scene of the crime. But according to multiple sources, they say that Karmelo was the instigator and the initiator. So yeah, that video footage is going to be hidden until the trial. And one of the biggest reasons being that it doesn't fit the victim narrative that the left perpetuate throughout the black community in the United States of America. That race baiting tactic that they play to divide this country. But based on recent events, we do know that the Democrat Party love to protect their criminals.
So some of my old videos about the Karmelo.
Now watch this. I want to show you how ridiculous Negroes are. Watch this.
So according to the Collin County Coroner's Office, Austin Metcalf passed away from his primary cause of death was an overdose from MDMA, and then the secondary cause of death was the actual stabbing. So who's at fault?
What? What report did you read? My people perish for lack of knowledge. That boy was not on drugs. Like, what the fuck? Who said he overdosed? That's the fake news. He overdosed and then the stabbing took him out. How the fuck? This is a lie. This is a bold-faced lie. But we're not supposed to say nothing, right? Especially me, because I'm black. He got killed because he got stabbed in the heart. Plain and simple. Has nothing to do with what the hell you're talking about, lady. But even if he was on drugs, there's no justification for that boy stabbing him in the heart.
I told you, bro.
So some of my old videos about the Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation have been getting a lot of attention again. And I decided to go see why. And when I went to take a look at it, it's a bunch of people saying video footage of what happened that day has been released. Do you still believe it's self-defense now? Why, yes. Yes, I do. Because here's the truth about the videotape that was released. There was a video that was released, but it was not released to the public, so we're not able to see it. It was released to a few media outlets, and Karmelo Anthony's legal team confirmed that they did watch the video. The reason that the video was not able to be released to the public is because there are children on the video, and there are laws that protect children and their identities that does not allow the school district to show the video to the general public. But if you actually took the time to read the articles and not just look at the headlines, you would see that in the articles, it says that Austin and Anthony are both not identifiable in the video that was shown to the media. Now, it is likely that the video will be used as evidence for the grand jury to determine whether or not they believe Karmelo Anthony is guilty of first-degree unaliving. But what it sounds like is that they're going to use the video as evidence to put pieces to the puzzle together, because there were people seen running from the incident and the EMTs responding. But the reality of it is, y'all don't care about the truth. Y'all just want to see that black boy go to jail. That's what it comes down to. And
Yeah, because he's not supposed to go to jail for stabbing somebody in the heart that didn't have a weapon. 2 teenagers. You see what I mean? This is what we dealing with, y'all. This is what we dealing with. This is the level of ignorance that we dealing with, and it gets worse. It's getting worse by the day, fam. It's getting worse by the day. Every day that goes by, it's just getting worse. Like, matter of fact, hold on.
Yo, at this point, I know a bump hate to see me coming. I know it do, because the proof is in the.
I hate when dudes say
Dogs concept.
What? I could care less. Man, they rapping about you. What's his name? Trick. Pusha T. Who the f*** is that?
When did America start caring about what goes on in Iran? Did we become allies with Iran and I didn't hear about it?
Okay, he done jumped over to some Iran stuff. I'm trying to find, I know I seen him have some stuff on here of the video of it.
Get into that in a second, right? We'll get into that in a second. I'm gonna break down why I feel like they don't want you leaking the footage. I think I know the reason why. You feel me?
It's official. He wasn't defending himself. Karmelo Anthony footage released, and it shows no signs of self-defense. The full video from the track meet is now in the hands of law enforcement and some media outlets, and it confirms what many suspected from the start. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment struggle. Karmelo Anthony brought a knife to a school track meet. He wasn't attacked. He wasn't cornered. He walked into another team's tent, pulled out a blade, and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart. And then he tried to call it self-defense. The video reportedly shows no argument, no fight, no bullying, just Karmelo initiating everything. This was someone who came looking for violence. Austin didn't stand a chance. He died in his brother's arms because someone decided to bring a weapon to a high school sports event. The footage is not available to the public at this time. That said, if this had gone the other way, that video would have been broadcast on every screen in America within hours. But now we're expected to just wait and trust the process. People rushed to support him online, sent money to his family, defended him without facts. But facts are here now. And if justice means anything, this video should be made public because the truth matters. It's official.
Now, I'm not even gonna lie. I totally agree with that.
So what I got from that is that media outlets are the ones that were able to view the video. They want us to believe that Karmelo Anthony ran into the tent where I thought he was already underneath the tent. Let me go back and listen to this again, okay? Hold on.
Most disrespectful Negroes towards me when they on other panels, when they jump up here, all of a sudden the energy be different. Why the energy be different?
Because you're the fucking angry man.
Why did the energy be different? So you had some people that just jumped out of the woodwork and they tried to say, well, they won't release the footage of the incident between Karmelo and Austin. They ain't released the footage. They only letting certain people see it. That's not even true. That's not even true. If you want to see that footage, you can go there and you can put in the paperwork and then you can watch the footage supervised, because they don't want you recording it and leaking the footage. Right? Now, why they don't want you leaking the footage, we'll get into that in a second, right? We'll get into that in a second. I'm gonna break down why I feel like they don't want you leaking the footage. I think I know the reason why. You feel me?
It's official. He wasn't defending himself. Karmelo Anthony footage released, and it shows no signs of self-defense. The full video from the track meet is now in the hands of law enforcement and some media outlets, and it confirms what many suspected from the start. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment struggle. Karmelo Anthony brought a knife to a school track meet. He wasn't attacked. He wasn't cornered. He walked into another team's tent, pulled out a blade, and stabbed Austin Metcalf.
So they say that he walked into another team's tent and pulled out a blade. Therefore, he was not sitting down, is what they are saying now occurred from the media outlets that did see the footage. Okay. And pulled out a blade and he just stabbed this other kid in the heart. So that's totally not what we all thought happened when we first heard of this story back in April. That is wild. Yeah, if Karmelo Anthony wasn't even in the same vicinity as where the threat supposedly was occurring at, and he went to where the supposed threat was, that's called retaliation. That's not called self-defense.
In the heart, and then he tried to call it self-defense. The video reportedly shows no argument, no fight, no bullying, just Karmelo initiating everything. This was someone who came looking for violence. Austin didn't stand a chance. He died in his brother's arms because someone decided to bring a weapon to a high school sports event. The footage is not available to the public at this time. That said, if this had gone the other way, that video would have been broadcast on every screen in America within hours. But now we're expected to just wait and trust the process. People rushed to support him online, sent money to his family, defended him without facts. But facts are here now. And if justice means anything, this video should be made public because the truth matters. It's official.
Now,
is that a real? I heard that picture of Karmelo supposedly holding up an AR-15. I heard that that is not an actual picture of him. I don't know, but this is what I heard. I heard that that's actually an AI video of Karmelo Anthony and not him actually holding a gun. So
I'm not even gonna lie. I totally agree with that. I personally believe that in the climate of today's society, especially with Donald Trump being president, if that video showed Austin Metcalf starting a fight with Karmelo, and Karmelo having to defend himself to the degree that he would have to pull out a weapon and stab him, that video would have been released. That video would have been all over social media. That video would have been all over the news. And the reason why is because it goes along with the constant narrative of the left, which is that Black people are always the victims of racism and attacks. This would be this year's This would be the new George Floyd situation. If there was a shot in hell that video could possibly show that Karmelo Anthony was the victim, you can bet your bottom dollar that the Democrat Party, as desperate as they are right now, they would be using that shit to their advantage. Look at what's going on in the Trump environment. Look at what's going on when Trump is president. This is the type of stuff that's just gonna keep happening and There would be so many old white Democrats on freaking podcasts and news media outlets with their jowls. This is deplorable.
Okay, we've heard all of the angry man that we're gonna hear right now. Yeah, Karmelo Anthony, unfortunately, they are saying that news has broke about, his defense of self-defense is no longer a defense that he can use. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. It looks like, he may definitely have to really fight for his life now as well.
Controversy, criticism, and a father now demanding answers. CBS Texas learned last night that Karmelo Anthony will get his diploma. Anthony is the Frisco High School student accused in the deadly stabbing of Austin Metcalf. Well, Metcalf's father now wants to confront the district superintendent about this decision. Our JD Miles was the only local reporter there. He brings us the story tonight.
He says he just wants answers, but when Jeff Metcalf arrived at Frisco ISD's administration building, this is what he got.
Hi there, can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to come in and speak to someone, please.
I'm sorry, we're not allowed to let anyone in without an appointment.
The father of Austin Metcalf wanted to hear directly from Frisco ISD Superintendent Mike Waldrop what he heard from media reports on Tuesday. Those reports are that Karmelo Anthony will get his diploma later this month, despite being under house arrest and charged with murdering Metcalf's son, Austin.
I've been stonewalled. Said, I understand the protocol. They said I have to make an appointment, which I did.
It was 6 weeks ago today when what authorities describe as an altercation between Austin and Karmelo led to one 17-year-old pulling a knife and stabbing the other 17-year-old in the chest at a track meet inside a Frisco ISD stadium. Anthony's parents, who claim their son was just defending himself, asked Frisco ISD to allow him to get his high school diploma. Sources say an agreement was reached that would allow that.
So I'm just curious on how they arrived at it when I read their own policy manual about what it states for mandatory expulsion and also graduation.
In a statement to CBS News Texas, a representative for the Anthony family tells us, "We cannot and will not speak about the agreement made with Frisco ISD that remains confidential and legally protected. However, it is truly a shame that anyone would go so far as to threaten a graduation ceremony or try to ruin a day that should be filled with joy, pride, and accomplishment for so many students and their families." Frisco ISD superintendent posted a message on social media last night, making it clear that Anthony will not be allowed to attend a graduation ceremony. No student who commits a serious criminal offense is permitted to participate in the graduation ceremony. But sources say Anthony's GPA was high enough to withstand missing the last month of school and still meet the requirements for a diploma. The school district tells CBS News Texas if the student is expelled, they may continue their education through the Juvenile Justice Alternative Education Program. In cases where a student has completed all graduation requirements and is facing expulsion, Frisco ISD typically gives the option of early graduation instead of placement at JJAEP. The controversy has resulted in a new online petition to award Metcalf an honorary diploma next year, when he would have graduated along with his twin brother.
The fact of the matter is, it's not going to bring my son back. I mean, it's a nice gesture, but in the long run, my son doesn't get a diploma. So there's part of me that says maybe Mr. Anthony shouldn't get one either.
In Frisco, J.D. Miles, CBS News.
Yo, it's Big Ant, the spokesman, man. We back. Another edition of Urban Politicians TV, UPTV. Make sure you stay on your pivot at all times, man. Had to come tap in, and first and foremost, I do want to take the time to once again say condolences to the entire family of Austin Metcalf, his father, his mother, both parents, his brother, all close family, anybody that's going through it and affected by the loss of his life, classmates, teammates, with this tragic incident that happened back in April. As we seen it all play out online, they are still going through it in real time with the loss of a loved one. Most definitely seeing that happen to somebody at a young age, we don't want that at all. That's not what we here for in no way, shape, form, or fashion. So most definitely condolences to his entire family and everybody affected by it. And God bless Austin's soul and may he rest in peace. And I had a link in the description where you can watch that clip in the beginning on CBS in full. And I'm going to get into this write-up in just a second from Capital News that kind of got everything spread all over the timeline today. And that's why I even put it in the title that way, so people can know and understand what's really going on, as nothing has changed when it comes to the charges that he is facing. He has already been charged with this in the state of Texas. 17 years old, you will be tried as an adult. Most of the time, I'm pretty sure there's some rare occasions where that doesn't happen in things, but for a murder charge in Texas, you're getting charged for, you're getting tried as an adult. But when you've seen it blasted all over the blogs today, it's everywhere on the internet, they haven't indicted him yet. He has not been indicted. He's already been charged. They never really got with the grand jury, and the grand jury hasn't made the decision for this to happen. The Collin County District Attorney's Office is prosecuting Anthony's case. A grand jury will review the evidence and decide whether to formally indict him on the first-degree murder charge filed at the time of his arrest, or on a lesser charge such as manslaughter. If indicted and later convicted, Anthony could face a mandatory life sentence. Though, as a 17-year-old, he would be eligible for parole after 40 years under Texas law. Anthony is expected back in court once there's a grand jury decision. If the panel decides there's enough evidence to indict him on any charges, a court date will be set. And on another write-up from Fox, it also is said the other day, Karmelo Anthony has not been indicted at this time. The case will be presented to a grand jury likely before the end of June. The grand jury will then decide whether to indict or no bail Anthony. When will Karmelo Anthony appear in court? No court appearances are scheduled for Karmelo Anthony at this time. And I just came to touch on it because I seen it starting to hit all the blogs yesterday where they said he was charged as an adult. This was already in place. It happened April 2nd. But he hasn't been indicted yet. Now, what did hit the news last week was his father coming out and protesting him being able to graduate and receive that diploma. I did see that, and I didn't really speak on it. I just left it where it was at. But now it's tied into this as well. Some of the blogs are promoting this now with the news that he's being tried as an adult and charged as an adult, but he hasn't been formally indicted. There is no real update when it comes to that shit. They don't have any dates. The grand jury has to indict you. It's an unfortunate situation.
We sent our IT producer, Kelsey Mittauer, to watch that video. She joins us now in studio. But in general terms, what did the video depict? What'd you see?
Well, what do you think's going to happen in this Austin Metcalf thing?
Metcalf ass go look. No, that boy going
Karmelo
to jail.
Anthony's going to go to jail.
Karmelo going to jail.
That's going to be a very big burden for the defense, is that they're going to have to show through the video evidence that there was an altercation. Because if there is a lack thereof an altercation, it's going to make Karmelo Anthony look bad. So Utah and Florida just passed bills to ban fluoride in the water supply. Why are these states suddenly doing a major, massive U-turn on fluoride when they've been adding this to our water for over 80 years? Well, RFK has been warning us about fluoride for a while, and the government now admits to the fact that fluoride is linked to low IQ in a released, but only to a certain group of people. And they articulate what they saw in the video. Roll the clip.
Frisco ISD is releasing surveillance video of the stabbing at the track meet that led to the death of a student back in April, but only under very strict conditions. So through open records, they will allow whoever requests it to view that video, but no recording whatsoever is allowed. On that note, we sent our IT producer, Kelsey Mittauer, to watch that video. She joins us now in studio to walk us through what you saw. We're going to go in order here in just a second, Kelsey. But in general terms, what did the video depict? What'd you see?
It shows everything from the moments leading up to the stabbing to the medical response to then the beginning of the police investigation.
Okay, and it lasted several minutes is what they showed you.
It did, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's start in the beginning now and talk a little bit about what you saw at the front end of that video, because you got to see the attack, the actual stabbing took place.
So it starts, I started watching about 9:53. The camera shows half of the field. So it's about from the 50-yard line on, and the tent where it happened was kind of right in front of the 50-yard line, but the camera is down here. Okay. It's positioned across the field. So everybody in the video, you can tell there are kids or adults, but no one's identifiable.
So a long shot is what
a long shot, yeah.
So a couple of minutes in, and you actually see the altercation take place.
Yes, everything leading up to it, everyone's milling about. It seems very normal, and then right at 9:55, that's when like there's this explosive movement or action between two people under the tent, and that's when the employees in the room told me that's when the stabbing happened at 9:55.
Right, and you were talking about people kind of start to scatter at that moment. Obviously something went wrong. So what happens next? Because now a little bit later on, that's when the ambulance shows up.
Right. So when the ambulance arrives, it actually comes through near the end zone at the gate, and then it comes up to the 50-yard line directly in front of the tent. You can see Austin Metcalf is right here. But then when they pull up close to the tent, they realize that they can't get the stretcher to him because of the barrier of the bleachers. So at point, then the paramedics have to get out, and then they have to walk all the way back to the end zone. This is actually, yeah, on the next slide. They have to go all the way back to the end zone and then come all the way back. That takes another couple of minutes. So at this point, they've arrived, and they are actively working on Metcalf at that point.
And we want to reiterate, we're using some imagery here to sort of denote exactly what was happening here, these little icons that were using the ambulance, because, again, the video was not able to be released. You're watching all of this happen, Kelsey, and you're watching the time sort of. What are you thinking about when you see this, especially when you see sort of the issues in getting Metcalf out of there?
I mean, you know, I understand why it happened the way it happened. They were still working on him, actually. The thing that really struck me is they're working on him, and that's when you see the rain's coming down heavier, and then they actually pull out the blue tarp.
The blue tarp that we saw.
Right, and then I noticed the crime scene tape is already up. I was so focused on here, I didn't even see that, but they're building the crime scene actively around him as they're continuing to work on him in the bleachers.
So that was happening while he was
Let's
still
talk
there.
about this. Let's talk about this real quick. I think it's time for me to interject and get some things established. So with the video footage that have been articulated, it sounds consistent. Now, she's not saying a lot. The video footage doesn't seem like it's the end-all, be-all. I'm pretty sure witness statements are going to be more pertinent than the grainy video footage. But what I think it will show, that's going to be a very big burden for the defense, is that they're going to have to show through the video evidence that there was an altercation. Because if there is a lack thereof an altercation, it's going to make Karmelo Anthony look bad. Because if you see people fighting an altercation and then right around that time you see a stabbing, then that could be different. But it appears that people who allegedly saw this video, because I can't verify if they saw it or not, I believe they wouldn't get on the news and lie because they'll get sued, the Sox will get sued off, that they're saying that it does not appear to be a brawl, or it does not appear to be a mob attack against Karmelo Anthony, and therefore his self-defense claim does not seem prevalent.
Well, what do you think's going to happen in this Austin Metcalf thing?
Metcalf ass. Well, no, that boy going to jail.
Karmelo Anthony's going to go to jail.
Karmelo going to jail. Because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
What if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense, because if you are afraid the day before, where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher, let's bring these kids in here and resolve this issue. Is called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. Somebody you tell the teacher, let the teachers know, so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So words of documentation to say this is self-defense. It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear, anticipating to use it.
That was premeditated, though.
And it's at a track meet. You getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. There's no so when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
No.
Man, you weak man. That's why I say teach the kids how to deal with bullies, and this won't happen. We're all not equal. Even in nature, you can be feeding a flock of birds. There's gonna always be one bird to come in and take the food from the. This is nature. Yeah. You cannot get rid of bullies. Teach the kids how to deal with them. Bullies build character. You go to work, it's gonna be a bully supervisor, a bully co-worker. You cannot get rid of the bully. Teach our children conflict resolution. Everything don't have to end in violence. But when you come from the black culture, everything is disputed in violence.
Yeah. That is the problem, though. That's how
it's the culture.
That's the culture. That's how they solve. When you have a serious issue, they don't even contemplate trying to talk it out.
We teach a no snitching rule, right? So our kids are walking around with these mafia rules, codes, and ethics of the streets that's held over children about no snitching. So now I have to take a weapon because I don't want to be a snitch and kill another kid. Oh, it's a simple solution. Go tell the teacher. Tell your parents.
Now, when it comes to the ambulance working on somebody, I would argue that a medical personnel jumped up into the stands and began CPR as they get the stretcher to come around and get Austin Metcalf. Also, the reason that they put crime scene tape up is because they probably knew that Austin Metcalf had already died. Like, this is one thing I think people have to understand, because there's legitimate protocol that you have to do, although do you know that there's an end result? Like, for instance, you don't stop doing CPR on just because they die, if that makes sense, right? Until you can get them to a medical facility where they could possibly be reassessed and there could be life-saving measures. If a person is completely dead and they're ruled dead at the scene and there's absolutely nothing you can do to save them, then they will leave the body at the scene, tarp the body, and create crime scene tape. The medical staff will leave and the coroner will come and get the body later after they process the scene and recreate the scene and everything else. But in a situation like Austin Metcalf, him being a young man, just because he goes unconscious or his heart stopped beating doesn't mean that they're not going to continue to do CPR on him, and does not mean that they're not going to try to transport him to see if they can save his life at the hospital. Therefore, it would be reasonable that he had already died at the track. He probably went unconscious. His heart stopped beating because he got stabbed in the heart, and he was completely dead. He died in his brother's arms. He was laying there. But they're not going to just let him. They're going to try to do some form of CPR on him until they can assess the issue at a hospital. So the reason why they may have been putting up the crime scene tape and putting the tarp over, because they pretty much knew he was dead. And they want to prepare for a murder scene. And they had to go through the rigmarole of, trying to save him and put him in the ambulance and pronouncing him dead at the hospital. So just so you guys know, because it does seem to be odd that they did all this and all that, and they put the tarp up and everything, but the kid is still kind of alive. It's like, no, I have been to cases and scenes like that before where we got to do our due diligence and try to do the best that we can, but we do know the person is gone. And there's probably no way of saving a person, right? Like, for instance, I had a guy It was a drug deal gone bad, which we found out later on. It was the most mysterious scene I've ever seen in my life because we had no idea why we were seeing what we were seeing. And I'll just give you a quick rundown. Maybe you can put me full screen. I'll just give you a quick rundown because I think it's pertinent and some of y'all may find this interesting. This is the wildest call I've ever been on in my life. So what happened on this call was that we got a report of a man walking down the street with a gun. And so in Arizona, you can carry a gun if you want to. So it's like, what's the harm in that? We'll go check it out and see what's going on. But then when we get a little closer to the scene, and this is in a community where they don't call the police. They call it the village. It's a bunch of Native American people and they hate the police. So they'll never call. I don't care if you died, they won't call. So the fact that somebody called a man walking down the street with a gun was suspicious a little bit. So we wanted to respond. And then they said the man is now parked in a car in the front of our house with a gun in his hand, with a gun. And so now he's a threat to the public. Everything goes off. We got 100 cops flying to the scene. We getting out with AR-15s. We going up. We see the truck with all the doors open. And then when we get to the truck, we clear the truck, right? And then we clear the area. Nothing is going on. The people in the house haven't come out. Nobody knows what's going on. We're like, how's this truck just sitting here? And then we noticed the guy in the front seat had got shot in the head, and he was literally coagulated blood. He had been sitting there for a period of time. So they didn't even call when he got shot and killed. So then that's when the crazy stuff happened. We couldn't rescue him. We had to use a dog leash to try to get him. He had blood all over his body. He slipped out all his clothes. Blood all over my shoes, brain matter on my face because I had to throw him on the gurney, which was an impossibility. Only by the grace of God I can get him up there because he was about 250, 280 pounds. The firefighters, they parked down the street, but they run the gurney. We had to go get the gurney and run it up a half a block because they can't enter into an active crime scene or like an active scene. So we didn't know how to lower the gurney. So the gurney is like about 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. And this guy's covered in blood, so we can't grab him. I can't grab his body because it's slippery. We're using a dog leash because one of the K9 unit guys came and helped. And the only way we can get him is try to wrap his upper body in dog leash and pick his body up and throw him on the thing. Well, you can only imagine that nobody could do it but me. And the guy weighs like 280 pounds. So only by the grace of God, I could lift his body up just enough to get him under my knee. And I flipped him up on the gurney. But when I flipped him up, his head went forward and went back like this. But when his head went forward, some of his brain matter hit me in the face and blood got on like around my mouth. It was disgusting. Some of it got on my badge and it was terrible. But anyway, saying all this to say, he was pretty much dead, right? He had lost a third of his brain matter because he got shot in the side of the head and some of his brains was on the back seat. And, so it was clear that he was dead, but we still had to do everything we can to try to save his life. So we did all that. Then we had to run a half a block with the gurney, with him halfway on the gurney, because I couldn't get him all the way on the gurney. I just got his upper body on the gurney. So we running with the gurney. His legs are hanging off the gurney. His upper body's on the gurney. I'm holding him. We still don't know who shot him and where the shooters are at. And we run him down there to the fire department. I remember it was something I did that was very insensitive, but I didn't mean to do it. I had blood all on my face and some brain matter parts. And I was worried about blood getting in my mouth because I don't know if the guy have hepatitis or AIDS or. And I just remember getting there and I'm like, my face, like somebody like wiped my face off. And they were like, can you wait? And we kind of busy here. Like we try to save this guy's life. He got shot in the head. After that, I realized that, oh crap, that does make sense. I do need to kind of pipe down a little bit. But I ended up wiping my face off and I had to go home and change my blood. My uniform was covered in blood. And then I went to another call with a grandma. And grandma wanted me to swipe for fingerprints because somebody broke in the house 15 hours ago. But I did. I treat everybody with respect and dignity, and I did. But that's just the instance how police work. I went from this crazy crime scene with blood and guts and all this stuff and all this trauma, and then trying to deal with grandma who's, her biggest issue right now is somebody broke in her house and stole some stuff. Anyway, I say that to say, I think the guy was already dead. We had to still do everything we can to save his life, but we began to set up crime scene tape and everything. Although he had gotten transported to the hospital, we knew he wasn't going to make it.
All right, so we got Officer Tatum giving an understanding of a depiction of what it looks like when police, are called to a scene and what it takes for them to actively pursue trying to save people and deal with the matters of very heinous acts of violence. So we've taken in a lot today from the Carmelo Anthony, new developments from what people are seemingly saying happen now, as you know, the trial, the court proceedings commenced for Carmelo Anthony in the killing of the other teen, Austin Metcalf. Okay. So, like I said, and also Officer Tatum also seems to have some of the same sentiments about what the media may have, released to us that they saw through a very grainy and very far away scene. So I want us to continue to give our, best understanding and judgment from the evidence and facts that are presented to us as the public. Don't just go with, first feelings of situations. Let's take the, matters into effect. So we're gonna lastly watch Charleston White talk about, because unbeknownst to me, Charleston White has very much so stepped up his standards of intellectual conversation that he's having surrounding controversial topics and issues. So, yeah, let me see. Charleston White on Carmelo Anthony. Okay. And we're going to end the Tea Talk show with that. Thank you guys for sipping tea with Tanisha Talks Teas.
I like where you're going on this, because I'm not even trying to race bait or anything. People are making this about black and white, black and white. You see that they're trying to make this kind of like a Trayvon Martin kind of, they're talking about it. But where do you?
It is. Trayvon Martin was an angry black kid that had to be sent to his father because he lacked discipline, grew up in a home with his single mother. Any well-behaved kid with manners that had respect of adults, once George Zimmerman approached him, whether he's right or wrong, as a child, this is an adult. You get off the phone with that fat-ass girlfriend you trying to fuck, you call your dad and say, hey, Dad, it's the adult around here to just stop me. He says he's calling the police. Rather than doing that, he had an attitude, because as young black males in this country, we have an authority problem because we're walking around angry, displaced from our father's issues, but we resent our mothers.
That's true.
So we're a ticking time bomb. And Trayvon Martin could fight. So that's why I say you be careful approaching some of these young kids. What a 13-year-old will kick a 40-year-old's ass.
That's true.
And that's what happened in that situation. He underestimated this kid, and he was looking for trouble. But by law, he was right. And he was judged by his peers. So we can't say nothing once you're judged by your peers.
Well, what do you think's going to happen in this Austin Metcalf thing? You think he's going to
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your man Wise. We got to talk about it. I talked about this last week on the live stream on Friday, just about the situation itself. This situation, it's a very, very unfortunate situation. It really is. Two people have essentially lost their lives. You have young Austin Metcalf, rest in peace, rest his soul, who is going to be buried, if he hasn't already been, 6 feet under. And you have young Carmelo Anthony, who allowed his ego, his pride, his emotions to get the best of him. And he's going to find himself behind a wall in a concrete box for an extended amount of time. We don't know how long, and we'll get into that as this video continues to progress. But Charleston White, who a lot of folks don't like, but He's going to speak on this, and he's going to drop some truth bombs, you know, in reference to this situation. Let's keep going.
Calf ass go, well, no, that boy going
Carmelo
to jail.
Anthony's going to go to jail.
Carmelo going to jail. Because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
What if he says, but what if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense, because if you are afraid the day before, well, you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher that's bringing these kids in here and resolve this issue. It's called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. Somebody fucking with you, you tell the teacher. Let the teachers know, so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So words of documentation just say this is self-defense. It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear. Anticipating to use it.
That was premeditated, though.
And it's at a track meet. You getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. There's no so when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a fuck what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
No.
Man, you weak man. That's why I say teach the kids how to deal with bullies and this won't happen. We're all not equal. Even in nature, you can be feeding a flock of birds. There's going to always be one bird to come in and take the food from the... This is nature. Yeah. You cannot get rid of bullies. Teach the kids how to deal with them. Bullies build character. You go to work, it's going to be a bully supervisor, a bully co-worker. You cannot get rid of the bully. Teach our children conflict resolution. Everything don't have to end in violence. But when you come from the black culture, everything is disputed in violence.
Yeah, that is the problem, though. That's
and I promise you, for whatever it is, to Charleston White, because I really just started to get on board with listening to Charleston White. He's been really coming through with some great, insight to just how black cultures are, living, how we lifing, right? Because at first Charleston White was just saying some boopity bullshit. I'm like, okay, y'all run with that shit. But he's been, coming out saying some pretty profound shit that has shocked the fuck out of me lately and has given me, the green light to go on ahead and listen to some of his insightful, almost prolific things that Charleston White is saying about black culture, black family, how we are today opposed to how we were, our generations, 80s, 90s, 70s babies were raised. A lot of us late 90s and 2000 babies have lost our fucking minds. And got to give it up to Charleston White.
It's the culture.
That's the culture. That's how they solve when you have a serious issue. They don't even contemplate trying to talk it out.
We teach a no snitching rule, right? So our kids are walking around with these mafia rules, codes, and ethics of the streets that's held over children about no snitching. So now I have to take a weapon because I don't want to be a snitch and kill another kid. It's a simple solution. Go tell the teacher. Tell your parents.
Yeah.
It's a simple solution.
I know, but
motherfucker, tell.
But what sounds crazy, I know it sounds so easy, but the thing is, even for the criminal, the guy that would commit an assault, if you stop him before he does the assault, then they don't have to go to jail as long. You know what I mean?
Man, this is not that kid's first time grabbing a weapon, because most kids who grab a weapon from the first time don't kill people.
Yeah, of course. You bring a gun a couple times before you shoot it.
And if I was being bullied and I'm in self-defense, even though he have an undeveloped brain and he's impulsive, why run?
I don't know.
Why get rid of the knife? You're showing criminal intent. Why throw the knife away where they can't find it? He wasn't found with the knife in his pocket. He wasn't sitting down with the knife in his hand ready to explain what happened.
Yeah. So, but do you think that he had some sort of predisposition to wanting to murder? Is that what you're saying?
No. Children don't wake up to kill because they don't have the brain capacity, the brain development to say, I want somebody dead. Children are impulsive.
Yeah.
This was a tragic incident where a kid who don't have emotional intelligence acted impulsively because he comes from a culture that promotes, propagates violence. Every day, all day, kill, kill, die, nigga, shoot, kill, kill. You can't take this in and you lack training, You lack morals. You have to have a foundation of a value system to listen to this type of shit all day long, and you don't have no emotional intelligence where you've been taught to say, man, when you get angry, think.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. So anticipating this to happen, that's why he had the knife, and we had this come. He didn't want to kill nobody.
I don't think he wanted to kill anybody. He almost kind of manifested it, though, just by his culture, that him around.
Well, you the older school out there. And not to paint this kid. This is why I used to tell my son, because I got a house full of guns. And I saw my son on Instagram one time with a blunt in his mouth. He was 14 years old with my guns. I told him I better not ever see you, because I'm trying to prepare this kid to go to the military. You don't, man, take that shit down, because that imagery, you can't take it back. So here he is. He got a video. He got a photograph, whether it's a real gun or not. That image is gonna destroy him in court.
It is. They're gonna.
You better not go to Collin County, where it's a predominantly white area, where these law-abiding, upstanding citizens have a heart for this white kid who was killed with a twin brother, a mother and a father. Their pictures with guns show a hunting image. His pictures show a gangster image, gang sign. And you guys want to play the race card in Collin County? Chill out, black people. Let's make this about right or wrong, because you don't want to go to Collin County playing race. You'll lose.
There's a lot to unpack there from Charleston White. And I wanted to let him cook, because a lot of what he says is absolutely right. A lot of what he said was absolutely right. This young man took a knife to school. Now, based off of what I've been able to research in reference to the laws when it comes to bringing weapons on school property, it's a felony if the knife was over 5.5 inches. It's a misdemeanor if it was under 5.5 inches. The fact that he did what he did, or allegedly, and ran and tossed the weapon, it doesn't sound like self-defense. On the flip side of that, when he tells, young Austin, touch me again, or touch me and, I got something for you. Another question that I've had, just reading this and things of that nature, another question that I had is, why didn't you get up and walk away? Why did you not get up and walk away? There's no testimony that the twins put their hands on you. There's no testimony that, he was getting jumped. There's no testimony there. Now, I would assume that, when this case goes to trial, in a year or so, that maybe that does come out. But if you had a chance to flee, why didn't you flee? If you had a chance to get out of there, why didn't you get out of there? Now, some people said that he had been bullying, and these young people had been bullying him for a while. But last time I checked, who goes and hangs out with their bullies? Who does that? There's like a lot of information out there that it may or may not be true. But if he knew these people prior to, and they had been bullying him, who goes on purpose and puts themselves in a situation to continue to be bullied? Typically, you would want to avoid them. Typically, unless you had it in your mind that, hey, today I won't be bullied, and I'm going to on purpose put myself in a situation to see what they do because I got something for them. Could be the case. Now, Karmelo Anthony, they've raised almost $300,000 for this young man. Austin Metcalf, they've raised $150,000 for this young man. This is a tragic situation. It's a very tragic situation, and you have a lot of people that are upset. They're comparing this to Rosa Parks. They're comparing this to the Rittenhouse situation, when Rittenhouse actually defended himself against two white people. That wasn't a race situation at all. I don't even think that this situation was a race situation. I think this was two young people who got into an altercation and ended in a tragic manner. There's no conversation around defense wounds, so it wasn't like it was a fight. Because typically, if somebody's coming at you with a blade, you're going to put your hands up to block. It doesn't sound like that was the case, unless young Karmelo caught the young Austin slipping and he wasn't expecting it. It's just really an unfortunate situation, and I'm saddened by it. We'll see what happens, but I don't think there is a way that Karmelo Anthony gets out of this without doing some time. Now, I would assume if he has a lawyer worth anything, they're not going to take this to trial. He's going to take the plea. He's facing up to 99 years. They say his the sentence could be anywhere between 5 and 99 years. He's not facing the death penalty because of the crime, because of his age. There's some parameters around the death penalty in Texas, so that's off the table. So he doesn't have to worry about that. I would assume, this is just me making an assumption, if he takes this to trial and he loses, we're talking about, facing up to 90 years, he could probably get 50, 60, 70 years. Maybe he'll get some parole. Maybe. If he takes the plea, He'll probably get, 20 years, 25 years with an opportunity for parole. That may be the case. The question that I've had around this entire situation is, why didn't he get up and walk away? Why didn't he get up and walk away?
That has
I don't care
been my sentiments as well. Why didn't Karmelo just simply run away? If the bully was bigger than you, that's what we used to do when we were young. We used to walk away. Okay. So I'm going to encourage all of my sippers, walk away. Teach your children to walk away. Teach your kids to tell an adult, talk to a counselor. You don't have to make a spectacle of it. You can talk to someone in private, to where, the other person doesn't even have to really necessarily know it's you. Because normally bullies don't just bully one person. They bully, variety of people. So, do it in private. But, do it. Don't just assume that you can murder somebody and say it was self-defense and you're going to go home, because 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be the case for Karmelo, and it won't be the case for you. So protect yourself, protect your families, teach your families values, right from wrong and how to handle themselves in high, critical situations, high, maybe even crisis situations. There's a lot of things that Karmelo could have done. He could have flagged down a teacher, someone, a sports person, a professional there, a coach, and, said, hey, I feel threatened until I'm scared of Austin. Where can I safely do what I need to do being here on this track? Blah, da, da. However have you. So just protect yourself, protect your kids, stay safe, and remember to stay sipping with Tanisha Talks Teas. Thank you. This has been my tea on Karmelo Anthony's new updates. Media alleges that it wasn't self-defense. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping.